Hello, everybody. Welcome to Example of Play, the home for strategy, tactics, and more. If you haven't subscribed already, now's your chance. This video is going to be the first in a new series I'm going to do on news roundup of just gathering all the announcements of new games, big updates, DLC coming out for all your favorite strategy and tactics games. Obviously, focus on the ones I like to play, but if you have something you're excited about, drop it in the comments or shoot me an email at exampleofplay@gmail.com and I'll try to include it. I'm planning right now to do these videos at least every other week, maybe weekly, if they go good, if there's enough to talk about. So yeah, just gather all that up. If you are a developer or publisher out there and you want to see your game featured, be sure just send me an email with the information, and I'll be happy to cover it. This first video is going to be pretty heavy on Slytherin stuff because they just had a big press conference today. They had a bunch of DLC drop, and they had some big news. So, and they sent me all the information about it. So, if you want to see your stuff covered, send it to me because they send me all kinds of stuff. So that's why I cover a lot of their games. The first item, probably the one that's most exciting to the most number of people, is that Broken Arrow finally has an official release date. They're shooting for June of 2025. So that's about 6 more months from now. Um, they had an open beta a month or two ago where you could play it online, and hopefully we'll see another one of those between now and then. I really want to get my hands on this game again. If you haven't played it, it's kind of like Warno, or the other war game, real-time strategy games where you're sending these big forces of units across these huge maps with the focus on player versus player. And Broken Arrow kind of sets itself apart by having maybe fewer units total, but more depth on those units, more customization. You could go in, you can pick like what kind of camo scheme they have, what kind of weapons that they're carrying. So you can really get down and not just pick like which units you want to take into battle, but even customize them individually. So, and this is from Slytherin, and as you can see, it is a way more graphically impressive game than most of the stuff that they publish. They have kind of this reputation for a long time of doing good strategy games that vary from like 2D hex and counter games to 3D games with not very great graphics, but Broken Arrow looks fantastic. There's nothing to complain about here. So this is one that a lot of people are excited for, so it's cool to see it finally get a release date. It is like in the top 50 most wishlisted games on Steam, so this is a big one for Slytherin. Excited for them. Looking forward to more of it. Next, a new game they just announced, Runequest Warlords. So there's not a whole lot on this one of when it's going to come out or anything, but this is a based on the Runequest tabletop RPG. It's not one I've ever played myself. I've played like Dungeons and Dragons and a couple others a little bit, but I never played this one. But apparently, it's pretty popular. I was reading about it. It has a long history going back decades, lots of different versions. So it's going to be a kind of tactical turn-based game, moving units around on a grid, that kind of thing, with a single-player campaign with a series of missions, and then also skirmish maps, and you can play it online and do some skirmishing too. So interesting. I always like to see different takes on the fantasy genre that are kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, but not exactly. So you have kind of different focus, different styles. So looking forward to hearing some more about that one. But if you're a RuneQuest fan, probably pretty excited to see a game based on it. Next, so this is some DLC for Battlesector. This one dropped today, December 10th. It adds the Astra Militarum to Battlesector, so the Imperial Guard. I'm a huge Imperial Guard fan, and Battlesector is one of the better Warhammer 40k strategy games. There's a lot of them that have come out over the years. Slytherin had a couple that were kind of like this, but this one is definitely the best looking one and probably the best playing one for my opinion. Battle sector, and so each it has a lot of DLC like this that add new factions with new units and missions and everything. Um, and so if you haven't played it, it is a pretty solid strategy game, and it looks nice, decent graphics. I was trying to find a little gameplay of it. I don't know if there's on these videos, but Warhammer 40k strategy game, good stuff. Next, some more fighting bugs. Starship Troopers Terran Command. So this is one that actually has an update. that they are going to add in territory mode. So they had a preview for it that they dropped today. And basically, I'm excited for this because Terran Command was one of my favorite real-time strategy games of the last few years. It is in the style of some of the older classic kind of RTSs, especially like Ground Control. If you ever played that series, where instead of building a base and generating resources and building lots of units, you had kind of a point pool and you had unlimited reinforcements, but you could only deploy so many units at a time. And so you had to kind of make the most of those units and like which ones and how you were using them, very tactical. And so Starship Troopers Terran Command is like that, where you're facing tons of bugs. You can only bring down so many units at a time, and you have to figure out how best to use those. A big focus on like positioning and tactics. And what this territory mode does is exactly what, whenever I did a review or video on this game, like a long time ago when it first came out, was that after you played the campaign, it was like a linear single player campaign. It had a pretty decent story. Every mission had some different objectives and stuff. But then once you finish the campaign in the base game, like that was pretty much it. You were done. Um, and so I actually talked about at the time, like it would be great if they did something like this. And then now they are actually doing exactly what I was imagining. This territory mode where there's different maps, but you start the map with like a small base, and the bugs control the rest of the map, and you are trying to expand out and fight them off and like capture ground. And then as you go, you get points to unlock different technologies, different units, and grow your force. And so it's a little bit random every time of where the bugs are, what they're doing. They're expanding the AI to make it a little more proactive, a little more unpredictable. There's like special events that can occur where like they might pop up in your base or get some kind of bonus out of nowhere that you have to deal with. So adds some big time replayability, which is exactly what the base game needed. So I will definitely be playing this one whenever the update comes out, because that was exactly what I said. This is what this game needs, and they are actually adding it to the game. So that is very cool. Next is another DLC that dropped today, December 10th. They had a bunch come out today, and it is a DLC for Terminator Dark Fate Defiance. I think this is a real sleeper of a strategy game. The base game, you're playing as the humans. This DLC, you're playing as the Legion, which is like the robots. Um, in the war against the machines in the future, it's a little bit different timeline than most of the movies. But what made this game really cool is it's another one where it's RTS with kind of a tactical bent, but every mission was really big, and you would go across the map and like encounter people, and there was lots of story stuff, and like there was like basically like side quests you could do that would give you bonuses if you could manage to pull them off, and your units could gain levels, get stronger. You had like different equipment that you could find, and so you could have like there's a lot of RPG kind of light RPG mechanics to it. Of each individual unit could be equipped differently, have different perks, stuff like that. And so I think really this is one of the most underrated strategy games of the last few years. Looks pretty good, has a really cool setting with Terminator war in the future, and just the way it handled like the mission structure, very enjoyable. So cool to see it get some DLC, which lets you continue the story, but now you're playing as the machines. Next, Gladius Relics of War got a DLC also, that also came out today. Ultima Founding. So Gladius, if you have not played it, it is like Civ 5, Civ 6, but with uh, Warhammer 40k units and no diplomacy, nothing but just war, as you might imagine. Um, it looks pretty nice. It has a big focus on moving units around. You do the things of like researching new technologies, but everything you unlock is basically more units or upgrades for the units you have. Um, and so just everything was about fighting. And so this DLC is just one of many that adds more factions to the game that you can play as or fight against. I think no, even if you don't have the DLC, you can fight against most of them. But if you buy the DLC, then you can play that faction. The base game is only $4 right now. It's on sale for the next few days. So highly recommend if you haven't played it. $4 worth the price of admission for this kind of Civ-like war focused 4X game. Really good. Played that quite a few times. And then on the topic of that, Gonna switch gears, and so in each of these videos, besides in the news roundup, I mentioned some stuff like what's going on with the Example Play channel, what we've got coming up, just to give you something to look forward to. And one game I'm playing right now, I'm going to do at least a couple videos on, is from the same people who made Gladius. This is their own setting that they created, ZEPHON. This is the same kind of thing of being a civilization type, Civ 5, Civ 6 type of game, but in a really different setting where it is this like post apocalyptic, really alien crazy world where like aliens invaded, and there's like some fantasy stuff, some sci-fi stuff. There's ZEPHON is like this AI that's built like this race of like machines that are nightmarish. Nightmarish definitely describes most of what's going on in this game. And as you play, there's different factions of humans that all have their own weirdness to them and their own story. There's tons of lore. Like every unit has a lot of flavor text. And so as you play as a faction, you start on the map just like Civilization, but there's lots of story stuff. You can make different choices, and you kind of learn more about those factions and what they're doing. And as you can see, it's weird and wild. There's like high tech stuff and there's like eldritch horror stuff all mixed together. So I'm gonna do some more videos about that soon. But that is a pretty cool game from the same people who made Gladius, creating their own original IP. So that's cool to see. Now something a little more conventional. Sea Power recently came out. I'm gonna do some videos on this definitely. I really wasn't even tracking this game until recently. When it came out, it's been a real hot title. Lots of people playing it, and for good reason. It's from the designer of Cold Waters, which came out years ago. Was like a submarine, Cold War submarine simulator. I played that at the time and enjoyed it, but always felt kind of limited, like you were just playing the subs. Well, this game lets you play everything. So you can be the ships, the planes, or not be, but control the ships, the planes, the subs, everything. And it mixes in a lot of realism, but being very playable at the same time. You're dealing with like, or do you have your active radar on? Or are you just using passive radar? What's the range of your different weapons platforms? Um, you got everything from little torpedo boats up to carriers and helicopters, everything in between, playing like cat and mouse, naval warfare, a very interesting period for the technology wise, where you got kind of early mid-tier jets and rockets and all that kind of stuff. So definitely look forward to doing some videos on this one. I know a lot of people are playing it and enjoying it. It's still in early access, but more to come on it. It does come with some tutorial videos built in, but I think I could do my own after I get to grips with it and try to take things another step further. So look forward to that. And then finally, figure I might finish these videos off with something a little different, stepping outside of just the normal strategy stuff, giving you something offbeat that I'm just personally excited about. And for this one, Caves of Quud or Cud, I still don't know how you're supposed to say it, but this is a roguelike that's been in development for like 15 years or something. And they have finally released 1.0. And not that the game's done being developed, but uh, pretty impressive to be that long and finally get it out the door. If you have not played this, it's a roguelike, so graphics are very simple as you can see. But the trade-off of those simple graphics is that you get an insane level of creativity and detail. This is kind of like ZEPHON, another sci-fi fantasy mixture of a setting where it's kind of weird and wonderful, and you've got like all these different types of characters you can be. You can have all kinds of insane traits, like stuff as simple as having night vision or having like mutant arms or being able to like shoot lasers out of your eyes, out of all kinds of stuff. It's like almost anything you can imagine is in this game. You can have like fantasy stuff. You can be like a cyborg and have like cybernetic implants. It's just nuts. And then there's a story. There's a really deep lore to the world. So that one is probably not for everyone. It's a little bit weird. It's a roguelike. Definitely not easy for some people to get into, but pretty impressive that they got it to 1.0 and got it out the door. And so that's one I'm going to be playing myself for sure. All right, so that brings us to the end of our first news video. Drop me some feedback, stuff you liked, stuff you didn't, or like I said, anything you're excited about that you want to see. Like I said, this video very heavy on Slytherin, and that's just because I had a lot to talk about for them, and they kind of inspired this video by sending me so much news. I was like, well, why don't I talk about it, get it out there? But I'll be kind of combing the web for other stuff, throwing it down, and then putting it together into a video every week or two for you to come and kind of get all that info in one place. And thanks for watching. Hit subscribe if you want to see more. And I look forward to seeing you next time.